So welcome everyone. Thank you all for coming here. Today is the appearance day of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a great personality, a great saint, an avatar who appeared 500 years ago. And he had many, many teachers and disciples that spread throughout all of India. And so one famous teacher was named Narottam Das Thakur. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy was the ancient philosophy of the Vedas, that we are not this body. The soul is different from the body. Like I say, I have a hand. I say, my hand. I don't say, I hand, my head, my feet, but I might say, iPhone. But we're actually not the phone, we're not the hand, we're not the body. So many of the scholars and philosophers during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would say, you can only practice spiritual life if you're born in a particular family. You can only practice spiritual life if you're from a particular race or nation. And so when his disciples, Narottam Das Thakur, were reviving the spiritual essence of the Vedas, just like Jesus was reviving the eternal message of love that was there. So Narottam Das Thakur, this descendant, this teacher from the time right after Lord Chaitanya, there were many, many people that were upset and challenging. That if you teach this, then how will I get paid for my expensive rituals? If you teach this, how will I get prestige by seeing myself just as being great because of my birth, due to some caste understanding? So Narottam Das Thakur had some disciples that actually wanted to defend his honor, because there was a group of scholars and pundits that wanted to shut down this saint. And so they gathered and they were going to smash and utterly defeat Narottam Das Thakur. Now Narottam Das Thakur was very capable of debating, but he understood that spiritual life is not passed through argument. It is through inquisitiveness, intelligent inquiry, but not in confrontational argument. So he had no interest in debating these scholars. But those scholars would go around bragging that they defeated Narottam Das Thakur. So some of his disciples dressed up in disguise on the route that was leading to the village of Narottam Das Thakur. And they defeated these scholars. And so this play is a rendition of that story. In the past, a group of proud professors, perfunctory priests, and pedagogy pundits all gathered along the promenade of Pakapali to present a pressing problem to the then powerful and pious King Rajanasinga. See, they didn't like that a certain saint of further south was schooling students in the science of spiritual sadhana, who saw him as a great sastric scholar, and thus they began to scheme. Besieged thus by the bitter bastion, not wanting to be beguiled, the bold baron, King Narsingha, beset on a wonderful trip to challenge this new saint without skipping a beat. However, hot-headed saints are not, for they're heart-headed, heeding that high spiritual realization is not found in the haughty. The great holy man, Narottam Das Thakur, had no interest in this hassle. If they have in mind that they've beheaded the head of the Bhakti dynasty, then so have it. Deciding to intercede, devotional disciples disguise themselves, dressing up as dandy dealers of daily goods. They set up shop and dormantly waited for the division of disagreeable deputies to drop by.
My good sir, what are the prices of your fruits?
Atat param atha dasha.
Oh, wait. How can you, low-born vendor, speak fluent Sanskrit, the language of scholars and philosophers?
Guru Shishya Prasad, Narottam Das Thakurji.
Whoa! You can speak fluent Sanskrit too?
So we are just humble disciples of Narottam Das Thakur.
Then how about this? How can someone born in a low family become a guru?
My dear educated man, have you ever read Bhagavad Gita?
Yes.
In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that our particular career of teacher, philosopher, is not decided by one's birth. He says, Chaturvarnyam maya shishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. That our particular role of being a teacher is by our qualities in nature. Because first thing that Bhagavad Gita teaches is that we're not the body. We're the soul within the body. And the body we have is just an imposition upon the soul. We are actually eternal, and we are not these bodies. Perhaps you remember of a great sage named Satyakama. Satyakama was born of a prostitute. He went to the school and applied for school. Any of you sages ever went to school before? Yes? Yes? Did they ask you for your name? Did they ask your last name? They wanted some information, correct? Mm-hmm. So they asked the Satyakama, who is your teacher? Who is your mother? Who is your father? So he went back, asked his mother, my dear mother, who is my father? She said, I don't know. Use my name as your last name. Now, when this student, Satyakama, went back to the school and asked the teacher, he said, my mother has lived as a prostitute. She doesn't know who my father is. And she told me to give her name as my last name. So immediately the teacher said, you are a brahmana, a priest, because you are honest. Despite his birth. Now, as you may know, Jabala Rishi is the author of the Jabala Upanishad, Satyakama Jabala Rishi. So from the very ancient literatures, this concept of validity of teaching by birth has been thrown out. It is one's guna, particular nature, and one's actions, karma. If one behaves like a priest, how many of you have ever been to a doctor? Would you go to a doctor who became a doctor? He got the certificate, and how did he get the certificate? He said, my father was a doctor, I'm a doctor now. Okay, give me a scalpel. You have a headache? Get me a scalpel. No. One develops the quality through training, through mentorship. This is all described. The whole culture of ancient India has been corrupted over time. Or someone thinks that they're a great teacher because of their parentage, because of their family lineage. So anyone, irregardless of birth, irregardless of nationality, irregardless of any type of social position, can be accepted as a teacher, provided they have understood the spiritual science. And if you scholars doubt this,
well, I have a doubt. I mean, I'm a simple woman, and I never even went to school. But you're saying that it's not about where you were born or how you were born, not your body. So, can even a woman be a teacher?
Anyone who has understand the science of bhakti can distribute this knowledge. That is the tradition. It is something become degraded over time. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Things over time, he comes because the things become changed and corrupted. Kaline mahata yoga nashta parantapa. Thus I come again to represent, again. Represent. That's what representation means. To represent something. The ancient spiritual knowledge. So this is something that is simply a degradation.
But Vedanta teaches oneness, absolute oneness. So why does your teacher, your high, lofty teacher from a low-born family, why does he preach that God is different than the soul?
My dear Sir Brahmana, as a humble disciple of my Guru Maharaj, I can only speak what he has told me. From the Shastra it is said, Vedanta tat tattva vedas tattam ya ganamadvayam brahmeti paramameti bhagavaneti sabdite. The Srimad Bhagavatam states that the absolute truth about reality is actually divided into three features: brahmeti, paramameti, bhagavaneti. Say one is to see a train coming at a great distance. The first impression one is struck with is an overwhelming effulgent light. A loud sound.
A train. I see a train.
A loud shaking vibration.
I can tell you what a train is. It's a big bright light that shakes. That's what a train is.
So one might think a train is simply a bright light. But actually, if you were to wait, you would see, my dear sir, when the train comes closer, are there not compartments on the train?
Oh, I see a train. I see many gears going. A smokestack. I see see people coming in and off with luggage. That's what a train is.
And my dear Brahmana, further, as the train approaches even closer, will you not see that the train is conducted by an operator?
I got on the train. I had some chai in the cafe. I stuck my head out the window. I've never been so fast. My donkey doesn't go that fast. My hair was flying in the wind. It was amazing.
And so, my dear sir, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 14, Krishna says that many people say that my existence is the absolute truth, is impersonal existence. But actually, such people, they do not know my higher nature, which is absolute. So what is the higher nature of God? My dear scholars, looking around in the world, what we observe as the populating factor of this world, this universe, is not personality. Is it not personality?
Are any of you people? Do we have any people here?
Hey, I'm a person.
Oh, hi, my name is Marari and I'm a person. Person. Similarly, we see the animals are persons. The plants are persons. The earth itself is said to be a person. Even it is said that if a plant is put in a dark room and only a little light is allowed in the room, the plant itself will grow towards the light. Asatoma satkamaya jyotirya tamasam gamaya. We should move from the darkness, we should move towards the light. The Vedas say this is the quality of living beings. That living beings are thinking and feeling and willing. We have the capacity to respond. Whereas the other section of our universe is made up of matter, which has no potential to respond or think, feel, or will. So a thoughtful person might conclude, if the world is permeated with personality at every level, at every step, if the world is enjoyed by personality, beauty, music, taste, color, art, a simple stone cannot produce art. Only a living being can produce art. Only a living being can relish art. So simply an intelligent person might conclude that if everything in this manifestation is full of personality, so the original person also, the original truth also must be a person. How can it be otherwise? Yeah, I am sure that you've read Vedanta Sutra.
Yes.
Vedanta Sutra says that the divinity is that which from everything comes from.
Similarly, the Isha Upanishad opens Om Purnam Purnamidam, that from a complete whole, only complete things might emanate. So similarly, we find ourselves complete personalities. We can understand that from a complete personality, we have emanated.
It is like considering that the sun is cold, but somehow hot sunlight came out of it. If sunlight, which is the energy that is coming out of the sun, has luminosity, has heat, then what does that tell us about the source? So
The source must be hot, must be person. And also we see many of these Vedantists, the so-called scholars of monism, of Mayavadism, that claim that at the end, the ultimate understanding of our soul, the ultimate understanding of our nature, is to simply be free of all distress, of all activity. We see that activity leads to distress, so the monist says, if I simply destroy all desire, destroy all activity, then I can be peaceful. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. But is it so that simply negating our activities can make us satisfied? How long can a soul go on without any active engagement? Actually, it is said that even the souls that attain Sayuja liberation, merging into the One, merging into consciousness itself, unvariegated, undifferentiated, avyakta shakta chetasana, they actually are unsatisfied in that state of realization. And they have to come back down again into the material world because of their desire to have activities. Similarly, how long can one say and sit in meditation before one is agitated by a desire to do something? So similarly, we understand that where does this desire for action come from? Is it wrong to desire action? Is it wrong to desire engagement in something beautiful? If a sick man can't take any food, cannot perform any activities in a sick condition, Does it mean that in a healthy condition he also cannot perform any activities? Or does it mean that in a healthy condition he can relish those activities properly? So also it is said that in the completion of the soul is active, unalloyed activity. Activity that isn't bounded by any reaction of karma, but is fully spontaneous and acted out of service and love for the Supreme Lord.
Like you see this painting we have in the marketplace. One could look at this painting in two different ways. One could synthesize all the colors, all the lines, and say, damn, that's a good painting. Or one could analyze and say, it's not a painting, it's an atom. One is you see a broad, greater picture, and one you see simply a part. Synthesize, analyze, synthesize, analyze. But it is one product that we're looking at, seen in different ways. As we see, it's a bright sunny day today. Is the sun here? Yes, the sun is here. Is the sun here? No, it's not here, or you all would be dead. So the same thing can be understood in a very minute, analyze, or very broad, full picture. So this concept that it's all one is looking at the part and neglecting the whole. We find that in the ancient literatures, both oneness and the difference between the soul and God are given. The soul, just like we say the sunlight is hot, the soul is eternal, like God is eternal. The soul is conscious, like God is conscious. Now, if you are God, as you're claiming to be according to this philosophy, then what am I thinking of? What are all these other scholars thinking? What are the little bacteria thinking at this moment? God means Ishwar, a sense of control. So what is your control? Make this day into night. Make my stash turn green. I've proudly grown this mustache for a long time. So this is simply a partial understanding. And one who studies honestly can see that personalism and impersonality are both there in divinity.
And let us finally look at what is the hope, what is the inspiration. The Sri Sri Brahma Samhita describes that in our complete and perfect existence, every word is a song, every movement is a dance. Every tree is a wish-fulfilling tree. Every stone is a gem, like a philosopher's stone. It can transform other things. So
Even this fruit.
even this fruit. So we can understand that just like we enjoy so much variegatedness in this world, so also the spiritual world itself must be variegated. That is our true identity. If we look deep within our hearts, we will see, my dear Pandit, that what our heart really longs for is connection with activity, with nature, with beauty, with love, with relationship. Without relationship, no living being can live, even in this material world. So similarly, without relationship, the unalloyed nature of the soul could never be realized.
I see so many of you pundits have gathered here today. Please, present us with your questions. Yes.
So, perhaps even the lowest man could be a priest, and even the highest man could be the lowest corrupt man. Why is a man born in one location to do a particular thing when he could have been born somewhere else to do another thing? So perhaps there's some divine force pushing that man to a particular place at a particular time.
Yeah.
And in his realization, it's up to the man to realize why he's at that particular time. particular place. Well, it's up to him to find that particular place where he himself is supposed to be.
Krishna says in chapter 7, he says, Yayatam rapagdante tam stataiva vijamina mama varna anuvartante manusha parta sarvasana. He says, everybody in this world, they're only following my path in all respects. So what is that force? What is that force that is guiding our life? It's none other than Krishna. Krishna says he is the witness, Shakshi. He is the super soul situated within our own heart. While we might forget what we do, we forget what we even ate for breakfast. We forget what we ate for breakfast yesterday. Our memory is so short-lived. But the super soul sitting within us, witnessing our actions, his memory goes back infinitely. He can remember all the activities we've performed over thousands and thousands of past lives. How is it that such a person like Mozart, when he was born, only 4 years old, could compose symphonies? When Mozart was 13, he heard a concerto in the exclusive 16th chapel that was only sung once a year for the Pope only. He heard this once, and simply hearing it once, he went back and transcribed the entire musical composition and spread it around the world. 13. So we understand, and Krishna confirms in Bhagavad Gita 15:8, that just like air carries aromas, so similarly, what we cultivate in our minds and our character in one life will be carried on to our next body when we take another body again. So those actions are rewarded by Krishna himself. Actually, Krishna is the only one who's guiding our lives, only one who's guiding our existence. That's why he says, Anitam ashukam lokam imam prapya bhavashime. He says, while you've come to this temporary, impermanent place, this material world, understanding that everything you attain will be lost, and everything you endeavor for will ultimately prove to be futile. Everything is cyclical in nature. Like you said, a Brahmana can become a Sudra. A great personality can become degraded simply by one mistake. And also a low personality, Mami Partavya Pashita, Ye Pisu Papayonaya. Even a low person can become elevated, even in one life. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, you can attain the highest goal of life. So this world is anitam ashukam lokam, it's temporary. So what should we do with our time, with our energy? Imam prapya bhajasvame. We should worship that super soul who's been guiding us all along, who's been in our heart all along, who's been witnessing our actions, who's giving us our karma. And if we simply do that, Krishna says, Sarva dharma prityaja mamekam shararam vraja aham tvam sarve papebhyo mokshashami masuchaha. He will personally free us from the entanglement of our past activities, of our past sinful activities, and allow us to go back to the spiritual world.
So in the 8th chapter, Krishna describes that whatever you're thinking about at the time of death, you take a body according to that desire. Desire and deed, kama and karma. Desire and deed, kama and karma. So, say you want to fly to Chicago. That's the kama, the desire. Now, depending on your credit limit, that might be a private jet or it might be Spirit Airlines. So we're getting a particular situation based on our desires and our deeds of our past life. And so we're all being placed in different situations by things that we have cultivated. Does that answer your question, our dear scholar?
Oh, it does, but I've heard some gods told me, follow me and I'll show you the world. Why choose Krishna and not another god?
So everyone heard the question. Why some gods say, follow me and I'll show you the world? And Krishna actually doesn't demand that we follow him. He explains how the highest form of spirituality is a spirituality that's motivated by love. And so you have to find that most attractive, all-loving entity and love that entity, and you've attained perfection. That is the highest form of religion. So the name Krishna simply means that being is most beautiful, most powerful, most intelligent, most kind. So if you find another being that is more kind than the entity that is presented in Bhagavad Gita, worship that being. whoever is most attractive, worship that being with love and devotion. Yes, great scholars. Scholars. Please, scholars. Yes, sir.
I have a very brief announcement to make and then question to follow. The announcement is, I'm Dr. Bhala, I've come from London.
Yes.
Also before that, I was in Ayodhya. So I've got a Ayodhya Mandir Ram and Hanuman flag with me. When you go for darshan upstairs, it's right in the right-hand corner.
Some of
Yeah.
you may know that after so many hundreds of years, this wonderful temple has been reestablished in Ayodhya, the Ram temple. It's a great history. Yes, sir.
The question is related to the previous question. Are all gods the same?
Are all gods the same? Now, in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it describes a Brahmana Bhuvana Loka, that from the highest planet of Brahma, who is the chief engineer of the universe, down to the lowest, all are places of repeated birth and death. And he says in the 10th chapter Bhagavad Gita, Name vidu suragana, the devatas, they don't know me. Why? Because I'm their origin. Name vidu suragana, prabhava namaharshaya. So we want to find an entity that is not subject to time, because that is what we're all subject to. We don't want to find someone whose hands are bound and ask them to free us when our hands are bound. We must find another entity that is unbound. Mukunda, moksha means he's unbound entity. So Indra, Brahma, they're all described to have extremely long lifespans, but they have a lifespan. These are, for those who don't know, it's described in the ancient literature that they're basically different species of life, but there are two categories of beings. So you have animal species, you have a plant species, aquatic species, you have birds, you have four-legged bees, two-legged creatures. You have so many human-like life forms in the entire universe. Vedas say there are 400,000 human-like life forms in the entire universe. There are angelic beings who live longer than humans. There are great rishis who are more elevated than even these angelic beings. But all these places and all these situations are places of repeated birth and death. Then you have another category of being that is called, these are called Jiva Tattva, the souls, who can take birth as an angel, can take birth as a dog. And then you have another category of being, which is called Vishnu Tattva, God himself. Now when God comes himself, he appears as an avatar, he exhibits extraordinary qualities. He doesn't do like simple magic tricks. Sometimes some of you have, as great sages wandering around India, you may have seen some pretenders who say, I am God, I am a great scholar, I'm a great personality, worship me. Look, I can do this little trick of hand, little magic trick. But God must do something wonderful, such as lift the mountain on the tip of his pinky nail, of his left hand. These are the extraordinary activities exhibited by God. So God has many forms, and the souls have many forms. That is true. So we must find, was this actually a being that has a birth and death, or is this a being that is eternal, the original being in many different forms? Thank you, sir. Any other great scholars, brahmanas? We have one thoughtful. Give us his thinking. I know we are simple food vendors, but by the grace of Narottam Das Thakur, yes? Sir?
You said that there is a supreme Lord. How can someone who's in this world under illusion get in touch with that supreme person?
Yes.
I mean, I think that I might be picking up something just by the association of these two great souls, and it seems to be that by the association of people who are saintly, who have knowledge, you also get that vision, where you can also come out of illusion. And it seems to be very difficult if you don't have that knowledge coming from someone, from a teacher. And, you know, my mother actually told me about Bhagavad Gita. I would hear it all the time as a kid. And even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is constantly giving all of his information. Arjuna, the whole story is just Arjuna asking so many question after question after question. And then Krishna is just giving answer after answer after answer. So just in my experience, I think that really finding a teacher, finding someone who has the realization, who has seen the truth, that person can give you also the truth, can cut through the illusion so that also you can come out of your illusion. And in that way, if the absolute truth is absolute, then it must be that we come to the same conclusion, right? The absolute truth can't be absolute if it's divided in so many ways. So that supreme person, he's all over. He has many different forms. But ultimately, there's one person. And as we get closer to the truth, I think it becomes clear. But maybe the pundits have more to expand.
Although we are in the 1500s right now, but in the future, there is a Christian boy who came up with a book called Heaven is for Real. And on page 80 of that book, which they did make a movie, the father asked the son, hey, you described in great detail in this this near-death experience, you described your vision of Jesus that you had. But what does God the Father look like? And so in this Christian book, the boy said, well, that one's a little strange. He's sort of blue. So it is true that there is a universality there. Even the Native Americans say the supreme entity is a blue entity who beautifully plays the flute. There's a universality that can be connected through sincere devotion. Different levels can be revealed. If you want the personal revelation, then you got to get personal. And the personal touch that you're looking for is love. Prem manjana churita bhakti vilochanena santai sadeva hridayeshu valokayanti yam shamma sundaram achancha guna surupam govindamadi purusha tamaham govindamadi purusha tamaham bhajami. So you just take that love potion number 9. You put a little of those drops in your eyes, and you can see divinity.
Well, perhaps we try to find a universal entity, but we are still earthly beings, right? So
As a special treat.
there's so much stuff we can just.
We have a scholar here who's giving an excellent question.
Okay, you can.
Listen carefully.
I brought this from upstairs, so
Thank
I'll
you so
take
much.
it back.
Jai Shri
Jai
Ram.
Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram. Thank you.
Special blessings.
Best.
Please carry on.
Thank you.
Yes.
So we're trying to find this universal entity that is the source of our existence, but perhaps we look at where we are on Earth, right? And perhaps we can find whatever we want on Earth. We see that we have the sun, we have the moon, and we have the Earth. And we have the stars, and stars give us a kind of hint of something greater than where we are from now. And I heard us.
So yeah, there is hints are there.
I heard of ancient method in which we develop our earthly consciousness and transcend that into a lunar consciousness where we can understand the earth, and then transcend that into a solar consciousness where we can understand the solar system that we are in. And from there, we get to meet, or we get to see, or we get to understand that universal nature that is us, or that has created us.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That makes me think, what's the characteristics of someone who is a teacher?
So that is described in ancient literature. Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jiva vegam, udaropasta vegam. So a person who has controlled the urge to speak, control the urges of the mind, control the urges of anger, control the urges of the tongue, control the urges of the belly, and control the urges of the genitals. Prativimsa shishyat. He can become a teacher all around the world. That is why we have taken shelter of Narottam Das Thakur, because he is not a master simply by a turban on his head or a big beard. He's become a master of his senses. This is the quality that should be exhibited, this mastery of mind and senses. And one's heart should be fully directed, like a river is flowing freely towards the ocean. The heart is flowing in a loving way onto the Supreme. Just like you don't have to tell the child to play. The nature is already there. You don't have to tell the middle schooler to not check out the other middle schooler or high schooler. The attraction is already there. So when the ignorance of identifying the self with the body and mind is cleansed away, then the natural attraction towards the Supreme starts to flow. Yes?
What if, instead of using this time to attain a spiritual sky, I use it to obtain karma and perhaps become a demigod, a deva, and enjoy in the highest heaven and have people worship me and adore me and live for 300 trillion years? Why should I go for the spiritual sky and be ready instead of going for that and just enjoy pleasure all the time?
Actually, the Bhagavad Gita answers this exact question. Titam mutva swarga lokam vishadam kshine martya lokam vishanti. Tridharmam evam tridharmam anupapanam gatam kama labante. That's how the verse goes. So it's saying in chapter 9 that actually if you do use this human form of life simply to elevate your position, get some better karma, you're not taking into account the critical condition of this material world, which is that it is anitam, ashulokam. It's dukalaya asasvidam too, but why is that? Because it's temporary. It's temporary. Everything we get must be lost. Everything we lose will eventually we'll get again. But nothing stays. And this is a big problem for us because we are eternal, so we stay. That's our very nature. So it says in the Gita that the soul is eternal. What we are is sat, eternality. And so naturally speaking, we're always coming into contact with things that we can have for some time and then we lose them. Or even the state of loss that eventually is filled again with gain. So if one attains the heavenly planets, it's only temporary. One again comes back down into the material, into the miseries of the lower spheres. Yeah.
How many of you would like to go on a trip to India with us? We will pay for the ticket. Okay. Anybody? Raise your hand. Okay, so we're all on the Hare Krishna Airlines flying to India, and there's going to be a wonderful feast served out. It's going to be a paneer sabji, like nice tomato curd sabji. There will be a pizza. There will be wonderful soups and rice. There will be cake and cheesecake and gulab jamuns. And there will be all kinds of wonderful dishes. And we're going to watch a film. And it is the film of the devotees doing kirtan at the Mayapur temple during the grand original Abhishek of 2004. And it's a beautiful, beautiful kirtan festival. But we have just one small announcement, just a little announcement. One of the devotees forgot to put the gasoline in the engine, and so we're going to crash and die. But don't worry, we have very good servers. We have, the devotee was saying, "Oh, it's not my service, Prabhu, to this." So we have very good servers. We'll have all the feast served out before we run out of gas. And if you like the movie, you can come back in your next life. See the part 2. So how many of you would be peaceful in this situation? So you're going to die. There's a famous song that was twisted over by our friend Ekendra. Whether you're Obama or President Obama, you're going to die. Going to die. Ha, ha, ha. Going to die. So, an intelligent person wants to solve this problem of temporality. Whether this world can supply our food, our sunlight, moonlight, all these things. Solve the problem of temporality. That is the one of the first things that one should seek to solve.
To answer his question, let's say you become a deva and you achieve the state of six-dimensionalness in which you are attached to the physical world. But what happens when your followers disappear and there's no one to worship or honor you anymore? You die down here, so you die up there, so now you have to come back to the physical world. So how do you prevent yourself from coming back to the physical world? You must become an even greater deva, in which you are not reliant on the devotees, right? But you are a necessity instead of a reliance. How do you do that? And that you have to give up some certain things.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking that's such a good point. What are you going to do when it's gone? And you're saying that it's all temporary. It's going to go anyways. So just putting 2 and 2 together, it seems like, and also you even said that this place is a place of misery. Everything is not always that great. It seems like if things are bad, you have to tolerate it. And then even if things are good, you still have to tolerate it. Is that right?
When things are bad, as things are bad, we have to tolerate them. When things are good, we have to tolerate them.
Yeah, it's almost like the seasons, almost like.
Parsas tukonteya stitasa sukha dukhanam. Yeah. Agamapaino nityastam stiksasabharta. So Krishna says that actually in our spiritual life, the best quality we can develop is this quality of tolerance. Because this material world is temporary, but if we learn how to tolerate, then we'll understand that we can also be the observer to the different situations that arise in our life. Even situations of great happiness, sitosna, like for example, the summer comes, everybody's very happy in the summer. Even now we see New York is kind of like coming alive again. People are becoming liberated from the condition of their apartment. And they're coming out, things are going on. And then, but winter comes, and everybody even emotionally, psychologically, you just like shut down. It's so cold, you can't go anywhere, you have to stay inside. But in all of these situations, we can be the observer. It's actually said that the yogi is the one who observes. The yogi actually observes. That's the first step in spiritual life, is that we don't necessarily have to be, we don't have to be swept away in the current of the situations that happen in our lives. Actually, these situations are changing all the time in our lives. And if we think that, by trying to take control of the changing elements in our situation, try to elevate, try to direct where we're going, we'll ultimately be very frustrated. So, so it's said that, what we should do instead is try to come to the position of observing these different changes, understanding that we're separate from them. What we are is different than them. We can actually begin to focus on who is the observer. And the yogi is the one who observes. The other one he's swept away only in the current. He's gone. He's carried away with whatever happens. But at least become a yogi. At least start to observe. And then beyond observation, one can start to actually become absorbed in the worship of the Lord and the chanting of the holy names. That can take us beyond time and beyond misery.
I must admit, my utter defeat. You are all very learned pundits, Sanskrit scholars even. And I'm very impressed with your learned reference to Shastra. Now, may I ask how one can partake in this bhakti? How can one reach that highest being and connect?
That process is very simple. Nam Namakari Bahuta Nija Sarva Shakti. Narottam Das Thakur is coming from this line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has represented that all the power of God is present in his name. Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti, all the Shaktis, all the powers. So when you call on the name with some emotion, with some devotion, with some attention, then you can get actually it's described, the Nami and the Nam, the one who is being named and the name itself, they're both the same, but of the two, the name is even more merciful and accessible. And so one can connect to God by calling on his name. And so no longer pickled with pride, these pundits and professors left port side. Presumably defeated, they gathered in group to pluck up a pick of a stockpile of proud priest. The new proponents, however, did not pass, and thereby reported to their patron and protector, King Narasimha. The mighty monarch was merry as to his main mentor, Rupanarayan, with this new twist. From the very commencement, they surmised that Narottam was a true saint of great merit. No longer in need of negation, they decided to all renounce the necessity to be correct. They decided to meet their saint, now in a very humble mood. That meeting changed their hearts and minds, and they became transformed in the philosophy of God, bhakti. Thus they became immersed in ecstasy and dance and chanting, singing in love for God. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, ki Jai. Narottam Das Thakur ki Jai. Fruit vendors in disguise ki Jai. Acting scholars ki Jai. Dancing tiny people ki Jai. This is called Sastradhan. Like in Spanish, we have this dhar. It comes from Sanskrit. Dhar is to give. Like we have our own devotee Narada. And it's he who gives to the human beings, Narada Muni. So, Sastradhana. Sastradhana means you give spiritual knowledge, you share knowledge. And so, this family has kindly brought this beautiful Bhagavad Gita, ancient science, coming with the original Sanskrit, coming with the transliteration, full translation and purport. And if any of you do not have yet Bhagavad Gita, this is their gift to you. So thank you very much. So thanks a lot, everyone. Please, we're going to serve out a nice dinner for all of you. If you enjoyed everything that was said here, as we always advise, please go to Wisdom of the Sages podcast on Spotify, YouTube, anywhere. You can tap in to spiritual knowledge on a daily basis. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Great job, guys.
So that was just today. We just put that together today.